A lot of times for me, I thought that more houses equals more money. So it's okay to mess this thing up. If you guys actually mess something up in this business, that's great. But you got to learn from it, process it, document it. If you're in this business right now in real estate and you invest in real estate, think of yourself first as a business owner, not just a real estate investor. Like, how do you make more money in this business, right? A lot of times for me, I thought that more houses equals more money. So if I did more houses, if I flipped more properties, if I scaled my business bigger and was able to do 100 houses a year or 150 or whatever, right, a year, I would make a lot more money. But is that always true, right? Now, for those of you guys that have been in this business for a while, you might be answering differently than some people just starting out. For me, I found out in 2017 when I really started ramping up that more houses does not always equal more money. Actually, you can actually make less money doing more houses. So I found out that better systems in our business actually increases our profitability. And the better systems we have also increases the freedom in my life. In 2018 and 2019, when my wife and I really got good at our systems, we were able to travel 229 days and go on vacation for like half the year, because of the systems we were able to create through all these mistakes that we made. So why don't people have systems? That's a good question, right? And if we were doing this live in person, I'd be asking you guys and getting you guys to answer these questions for me. But why don't people have systems, right? Some reasons why people don't have systems is that they don't know how, right? Maybe they don't know where to start. Maybe that it's too complicated. Maybe you've moved forward too fast and it's hard to stop and take a break to be able to look backwards and figure out the systems, right? Because you have to keep moving, right? There's lots of reasons why people don't have any business systems. So going back to this, in order to create a good business system, you can't look at this stuff complicated. You have to keep things simple. So an inefficient business requires time and money, right? An efficient business requires either time or money, right? One or the other. So you either have to put your own time into it or other people's time, or you invest money into it or invest money in people. And so, and you can create system efficiency. So this is kind of an example. So if you go back to all these squiggly little lines everywhere, like to do acquisitions, planning, rehab, disposition, which is your standard process for a fix and flip, for instance, and you just get rid of all the weird ass stuff and keep it really simple, right? It's easier said than done, right? This looks all pretty on PowerPoint, but it is actually easier than most people believe. So major pitfalls for growing your business. Most of the time why people mess up growing their business is they do something called the shiny object syndrome. This happens to all of us. I have the shiny object syndrome all the time, right? Everything looks so cool to go do, but you have to be able to put blinders on as much as possible to be able to do this business, to be able to get to the next level, in my opinion, right? So there's no support around you. That's another reason why most people don't do well in this business, is they don't have any support around them. They don't have a team. They haven't been able to bring other people on board. They don't have support from maybe their family and friends. And it's tough. It's really tough to do this business by yourself. They do too much too fast. This is probably, in my opinion, the number one mistake most investors make when they start to want to scale. They do one flip really well, so they buy another. They do the second one really well, and they go, cool, let's buy 6, right? And they buy 6 at once, but they had no systems to be able to do what they do, and they mess up all 6. Or they buy lots of rentals, or they run out of cash really fast, or they buy a bigger project that they shouldn't have ever bought to begin with, right? And they just move fast way too quickly, and they don't reflect on how they got where they are. You're doing it alone, DIY, right? It's better to do it yourself, right? You make more money if you do it yourself, right? No, you don't. Poor leadership and delegation. Maybe you start building a team, but you don't know how to communicate to your team to do what they need to do. It's a challenge, right? Leadership is a big issue in this business, and being able to delegate. Most of us get in this business by ourselves, and we're used to doing things on our own. And once you start adding people to the team, right, we just assume that they should know what they're doing, which that's not always the case. So having systems helps you delegate and create better leadership. Not knowing where you are now, so you kind of get a head in the sand. So this is a symptom of where it's just moving forward, but not actually paying attention to the map that you're on, and knowing your financials really well, being able to look yourself in the mirror, knowing that if you messed a property up, what did you actually do to mess that thing up, so you can learn from it. Those are all things that could be done. So where do you start? First, what is your outcome? So this is what we do. This is what I do all the time. Anytime that we want to create a new business, go into a new venture, I focus very heavily on what is our outcome. And this comes with our system, because that's going to create it. So how do I want to earn my income on that job, on that business, right? How much time do I want to put into it, right? What do I want to actually work on? So maybe and I'm just going to use flips because it's easy. But if we look at a project, we go like, okay, how are we going to actually earn money on this flip, right? We're going to want to earn X amount of dollars to it, right? We're going to want to be able to make a certain amount of profitability on it. Cool. How much time do we want to put into it? Do we want this to be a 3-month project, a 12-month project? How much time do I want to put into it personally? Do I want to be at that project every single day for 40 hours a week working on it myself? Or would I rather work on it 4 hours a week or 4 hours for the entire project and have other people do the rest of the work? Those are two different systems. If you like physically working on the job, that's a different system than somebody like me that does not like working on the job and would rather have other people do it. So know which way you want. What do you personally want to work on, right? For me, I want to be able to network. I want to be able to raise capital, and I want to be able to find better people than me to help me do this business, right? Maybe you personally want to work on acquisitions. Maybe you personally want to work on the financials. Maybe you want to physically work on the job. So what do you actually want to do on it? So when you figure all that stuff out, those 3 things, in my opinion, what do you want to make, right? How much time do you want to actually put into it? And what do you actually want to work on yourself? Then you can start backing out and building a system around that. These are 3 books I recommend to everybody if they ever want to get in a position where they can build out a system for their business more effectively. I recommend these 3 books big time, especially for this business. That's what I've done. 4-Hour Work Week will teach you how to work effectively, right? Don't get too much in the realm of that book about how you have a lifestyle, about how you sit there, travel the world, that kind of stuff, which is all great things. More importantly on that book is focus on what Tim talks about when it comes to getting the most you can get out of people, yourself, and work super effectively, right? That's what that real book is about, so that you can get 40 hours of work done in 4 hours, kind of a thing, right? When you're really effective on it. So you condense time. The One Thing by Gary Keller, amazing freaking book. It teaches you really, really, really well how to really chunk stuff down to where you go like, this is the most important task that we need to be doing right now. And the Checklist Manifesto by Atul Gawande. He is a he's a surgeon that wrote a great book on basically how to take complicated systems and turn them into very simple checklists, which is what we do every day in our business. So I recommend those 3 books all day. And if you read them, let me know. So write out everything you do and what you do in your business. This is what I like to do. And then from there, chunk down what you actually want to work on. So here's a standard process. If you take a typical flip, a typical development, typical whatever, right? This is all the components that I can think of, the 9 big components on an investment process, right, for this business. You got marketing and acquisitions, which you got to find a way to be able to, you got to find the property, find the deal. There's lots of ways to do that. And there's lots of people on Bigger Pockets to help you figure that out. You got to analyze the property once it shows up. Okay, so and each one of these has a different component. Funding, purchase, you got to actually close. Planning and design, if it's a flip or development or rental, whatever you got to do there. Contractors, get them going. Rehab management, make sure the rehab gets done. Bookkeeping, that's your financials, extremely important. A lot of people miss that part. And then you have to basically do your disposition, which is going to be either listing it, refinancing it, renting it, whatever it is, to be able to finish the project up and then move on. Now, if you're keeping it, then you also have property management and things continue to go on as a project. If you sell it, it's gone, and you move on and weigh your money and go for it, right? So there's a lot there, right? So how do you keep it even more simple? So what my team and I did over the years is we go, out of all these 9 things that's on here, what are the most important things that if we funnel, this comes from the One Thing Gary Keller, plus also the Checklist Manifesto. If we funnel those things through and we really bunch them in and say, what are the most biggest components for us in our business that we need to simplify and focus on the most in order to accomplish all these things? So for us, I'll show you that in a minute, right? I thought it was the next slide. Oops. So you got to ask yourself, if it were simple, what would it look like, right? So that's what we did. We said, what if it was simple, what would it look like? So out of those 9 components, it comes back. This is my entire business process is we've chunked in property walk analysis. We don't worry about marketing because we have other people. We just use wholesalers and we network a ton for other people to find the marketing for us. We're more concerned about once we have a deal in front of us, how do we walk the property? How do we analyze the property? How do we get all the details we need in that as much as possible to make a really, really, really good decision when it comes to buying that property? So we got really good at that. Then we got planning phase, right? We spend the most time out of all 4 of these sides of my business. We spend the most time on planning. Once we know we're buying a project, let's plan out literally everything. And that is a bigger bigger presentation and discussion on how we work on our planning phase. But let's get our bids. Let's get our scope of work. Let's get our, what are we going to actually do for disposition, which is, sell or keep or whatever, develop, whatever we're going to do with that long term. Let's plan out all that, get all the contracts lined out, get everything figured out, get all the finishes if it's a flip, get everything figured out in the planning phase before we even go to the rehab phase. Where most people fail is they just jump straight into rehab and they don't do any planning, and they wonder why they have lots of change orders and the project gets out of hand and creates a lot of stress, right? We found that if we spend more time on planning and more time there, even if it means leaving the project alone for a little bit, then we have way less headaches going through the rest of the project, and it moves very smoothly and very quickly in that phase. So rehab, of course, we actually have to do the rehab. Now, if we have a development, for instance, right, that would be a portion of the rehab phase, but that's, if you're building a house, that's still the same thing. If you're renting it out, if you buy a rent-ready project, then maybe there's not much you have to do. This could be a really, really short phase with rehab, or it can be a really, really long phase, like our development's a 2-year project, right? So it just depends on how much time you need to put on there. Now, how much time you personally put in there is another question, right? Me on the rehab phase, I got very little time I got to be putting into it. Most of my time I put into this system is in planning, right? So that's where I put a lot of my time. I'm involved in that. I have other people that worry about the property walk analysis. I have other people that worry about the rehab for the most part. And I put my time into planning so that way the rest of the project executes. And then there's disposition, which is just either you're going to flip it, sell it, or in which case we'd be doing a lot of BRRRRs, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. So that means that we're going to keep it, which means we got to refinance it, which I'm involved in the refi because it's my financials and also my relationships. Make sure it gets appraised, that kind of stuff. And then somebody else property manages it, right? So they have Alex Camacho. What's up? So Alex actually asking a good question right now. How much time do you spend on the planning phase, right? For those of you guys that are in Southern California, make sure you guys become friends with Alex. He is an amazing dude. He's also been posting a lot of videos lately, I think, on his Instagram and Facebook. At least they've been popping up. So how much time do you spend on the planning phase? We spend as much time as needed. That's a great question. So for where people don't like about my process is I go, you don't need to rush forward. There's a lot of people that have been in this business for a while that would agree with what I'm saying, which is you buy a house. Most people go straight into demo and straight into trash out, which I agree with trash out. I don't agree with demo. So if you have a property that's totally messed up, yeah, I'm going to get trash out right away because we don't want to keep most of that crap anyways. So we can get that done. But I hold off on everything else until we know we have a full scope of work. We know any kind of floor plan changes, finished packet stuff, literally everything lined out on that project. Now, for us, that can be 7 days, that could be 3 days, that could be 45 days, right? It just depends on the complication on the project. And if we need engineers, architects, and that kind of stuff too, that's part of the planning. And if we need to get permits, that could be part of the planning phase too, right? When it comes to it. But we spend as much time as possible. We used to not spend much time at all on that part, right? And we just rush forward, and then we'd get stuck. We'd have bottlenecks. We wouldn't have a schedule for the project. We wouldn't know we needed to order materials on time for a certain period. We'd have a plumber getting pissed off at electricians. There's all sorts of stuff that would happen because we didn't plan it out. So I would rather sit on a house for 30 days, 45 days, 60 days than just rush into it, right? And I'll still probably get the house done faster than other people because we spent that time on the planning phase. And that comes from personal experience. That's not me just like saying it. That's actually from years of screwing this thing up and learning that. So Leverage technology. I think technology is one of the best things in the world, right? When it comes to this business that our ancestors flipping houses back in the day couldn't do, right? We use these three things all the time. We've used all of these, right? So Google Drive and Dropbox are very, very similar. If I had to go back, we're super integrated in Dropbox. If I had to go back in time, I would use Google Drive if I had to start over. So just to throw that out there. Smartsheet we use for our scopes of work. It is not for the faint of heart. So just so you know, there's probably simpler things you can use than Smartsheet. Asana is our project management tool. We use it constantly. And maybe one day I'll do an Asana presentation on how to use it. Moving on. All right. So let's talk about Dropbox, right? So Dropbox you can use right now. Google Drive, I think I said before I got kicked off, Google Drive is what I would use going back in time, right? But we're too integrated with Dropbox now that I just can't get out of it. So we're going to continue to use Dropbox, right? So what is Dropbox? Dropbox is the cloud, right? I don't know what the hell that is, but basically I put stuff in it and it stays there and it's attached to all my electronics. I know that. So here's how this works. What we do is we create a folder for each property, and you can do this now. This is if I give advice to anybody starting out on systemizing their business, I'm like, just do this one freaking thing. Like, oh my God, this is the easiest thing you could do in your entire business, whether you're by yourself or not. Just get slightly organized, right? I just want to preface that. Just get slightly organized. This is how you get slightly organized. We create these Dropbox folders for each project, right? This one says Cushman. I didn't put the whole address on there, but this is a project that we bought a little while ago. It's actually a burr of ours. It's already done. It's just when I made this PowerPoint, it was there, right? So this is when we buy a project, every single property that we buy looks just like this as far as folder setup. Exactly. So you'll have a project, Cushman, right? In this case, you'll have these basic 5 folders that'll be in there. Analysis, which is everything that we do to analyze a property, right? So anything we did for comps, floor plans, whatever that we did pre-purchase, P&Ls. So how do I look at a property and spend very little time on it without physically having to go to it? Well, it's easy, right? We take a ton of photos, right? So I have whoever's going to go drive the property take 100 to 200 photos of the project in a certain way. So that way I could be from my phone anywhere in the world at any time and analyze a property with photos without having to physically go look at it. The purchase, anything that happens when it comes to purchasing property. Rehab is another folder we'll show you in a minute. And then pictures, rehab pictures, right? And then this is a real list report, which I just like to keep in there. But let's go to the rehab folder. So I move on there. So this is the rehab folder. So when you open that up, it has bids, invoices, permits, plans, right? And then we just put our GC scope of work in here. But all the bids we get goes in there. All the invoices we get go in there. All the permits and all the plans, right? So it's really, really simple and straightforward. And that's all that's in there. Every single project. If we have 20 projects going on at a time, they're all set up like this so that we can just open up the folder on our phone and pull up a file and not have to spend hours trying to find an invoice or search our emails or any of that kind of stuff. It just drag and drop it into Dropbox. It's that simple. And nowadays with Google Drive and Dropbox from your phone, you can just take a bunch of photos, right? Which I'll show you that in a second. You go to rehab pics. We drive our properties weekly. So you'll see the way that we label these is pretty straightforward. We do the date, whatever's going on at the project at that time, and then who took the photo, right? And when they open it up, in this case, this was 2/13/19 paint. Nate took the photo. So there is 98 photos of this house on 2/13/19, right? I can get in a whole debate why we take so many photos of a house, but I'll tell you the number one reason why we do it is so that I don't have to go see it. I didn't take the photos. Somebody else did, right? So how am I going to know if the project's doing well, if I'm curious, if I'm on the beach in the Caribbean or whatever, and not go to the project, right? Well, somebody takes 98 photos of the house in a certain way, which we do the exterior first, and then it goes to the interior. Then I could just scroll through the phone and see it, and somebody else took it. How many people in your market, right, in your area, that if you had a project happening right now, a flip, that if you just went on Bigger Pockets or went on wherever, Facebook, or went to a meeting or networking meeting or whatever, and said, hey, is there any striving investors here that would love to drive my project once a week and take some photos? You'd have so many people that would do that for you for free because they're just really interested in the rehab project and they would love to learn, right? So our team internally takes them. We have people that do it for us too if we want. But in reality, if you just put it out there, you're like, well, I don't want to drive my project every week. Well, don't. go get somebody else to do it for you. They'll do it for free. Trust me, because they just want to see it. And then you make them put it into a Dropbox folder for you so you can see the project. If you want to really systemize it. So but going back, I just want to reemphasize, this is just folders. That's all it is, right? All you got to do is get in the habit of just throwing stuff in there when you get it. My favorite thing to ask investors is show me a photo of the house that you just did. And they have to pull up their phone, right? And they have to scroll for like 2 hours to find the photos of the house that they just did because it's not organized, right? For us, we just go in the folder and take a picture. Now, I am going to specify this on this particular system. This has saved me from contractor lawsuits, from time, energy, effort issues, from coordinating subs. This has saved us so much time, money, effort, energy because we do something as simple as taking photos and putting them in folders, right? I'll give you one example and one example only. Earlier, I had mentioned on my screw ups that we had showed up to a project that the project was completely finished. And then we show up to it one day, it got gutted down to the studs, right? The contractor at that job basically gutted the whole thing. Gutted the whole thing. And we had photos showing that the reasoning for it was because there was a small roof leak, a very small roof leak on the house that was doing like a pin type of drip. A little bit of sheetrock damage in the ceiling, not much, right? Roof leak. Now, the roofer was responsible for that, granted, but we had photos showing that the entire project was almost finished. We had photos showing the roof leak itself, right, because of the way it was, and we had it all documented, time-stamped in these folders, right? What happened was that general contractor was a crook, and he basically called ServPro, which is a mediation company, water mediation company, that came out, and he told them there's water damage on the property, gut the house. So ServPro comes in, he pays them, and they gut the entire house down to the studs, right? Just because of a small roof leak, very small roof leak. Well, we had that all documented. We had all those photos. We sued the crap out of this freaking contractor. He tells us, like going, hey, here's my bid to finish it back up. Just call your homeowner's insurance since it was a roof leak. And when you get the insurance money, just, you hire me again and I'll fix it back up. Thinking that like we're cool with this because we were out-of-state investors. No, we had photos. This was out of state. We had photos of all this type of stuff. So because of that, we went to court, sued his ass. We won, got a judgment, blah, 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 right? The guy's criminal. But the only reason why we were able to do that was because we had photos, right? So that's an extreme example. Hopefully that never happens to you. A really simple example is that you rewire a house with electrical and the drywallers come in and they cover a couple electrical outlets. That happens. That actually happens regularly. So you don't know where the electrical outlets are. Neither does your electrician for whatever reason, right? Bad electrician if he doesn't know where they are. And they're trying to figure that out. Well, back in the day, my electrician would just start cutting sheetrock to try to find their freaking outlets. And now you got a bunch of damage. Instead, we have photos of where the outlets were before the sheetrock went up, and we just forward the photos to the electrician or the drywaller, and they find them without cutting a bunch of freaking drywall everywhere, right? Really, really simple stuff like that you can do too. So take photos, store them on your Dropbox, use your Google Drive, and your life will be easier, especially if you want to travel the world. So overwhelm. Yes, we can all experience overwhelm, and I'm wrapping up here. So we can get kind of confused when we start going on to the how. We're asking that question all the time. How do I do this? How do I make this business better? How do I get systems? How do I, work 4 hours on a project that takes 5 months to do and have no stress whatsoever on it? Like, how do I get to that point? And I want you to change that, get rid of that word. Like, don't even ask how, right? How is a overwhelming word because it doesn't create a solution. Instead, ask what and why. Those are the questions you should be asking yourself. What do I need to do to get my business to go from 1 to 10 or from 10 to 100? What are the steps I need to take? And why the hell do I even want to do any of that stuff? Because trust me, I got friends that might be listening to this right now that go like, don't do 100 houses a year. That shit sucks, right? So but you have to have a reason, a why. Why do you want to do that? Why do you even want to have rentals? Why do you want to do BRRRR? Why do you want to do? And once you have that why, that reason to even just do it to begin with, then you can start figuring out the what. What step do I need to take? And then you'll start coming up with solutions or at least action steps or the next step for what it is. It might be what might be, I need to watch more videos like this. I need to go network more. I need to go on Bigger Pockets more. I need to go to whatever, right? The conventions that are out there. Why? Because you want to weigh your money instead of count it, right? Maybe you want more freedom in your life to be able to travel like us, right? So maybe you just hate your job, right? Or maybe you just want to have extra supplemental income for your retirement. All those things are great reasons. But that's the motivation that allows you to figure out the what and step forward. Okay, hope that helps. So last little things, and then I'm done, I promise. So chunk it down. and simplify. Complicated does not get done. If you overcomplicate this thing, you're not going to do it and your team won't do it. License to grow is letting go. That's one of my favorite phrases, which is let's let it go. Let other people do what they're supposed to go do. Pay people to do what they're supposed to do as you grow your business, or partner with people. And it just makes things easier. What are the things that others could be doing better or at least equal to me, and do it right? Right. For me, my superpower is networking. I'm going to go network and meet people. If I'm not doing that, I'm hurting my business. So I have to let other people do the things I suck at, which I suck at finishes. And we do some amazing houses. But if I had to pick out the finishes, everything would be gray and everything would be bland because I don't see color that well. So I'm the wrong person for that. And I don't care about faucets and flooring. So you can't manage something you do not measure. So you have to have measurements for this, whatever that system is. So you know if you're doing it right or not. No value in just knowing the numbers. You have to actually have the value is knowing what to do with the numbers, right? The actual numbers themselves. So you might know, okay, I made $36,000 on a flip. Cool. You know the number. The value is, why did you make $36,000 on that flip, right? Or my rehab ended up being $72,000. Great. You know the number, but why was your rehab $72,000? And was that a good thing, a bad thing? Was that over budget, under budget? What caused those situations? And be able to analyze all that stuff so that you can grow yourself as an individual and also as a business and get better and better and better. It's not easy, guys. Just want to throw that out there, right? Money and systems do not respond well to emotional decisions. And I want to leave on that. Money responds to a plan, right? I have only lost money, real money. I lost $86,000 on one house, one project. And I lost like $5,000 on another, 10 on another, which were like out of my hand on some stuff. But the $86,000 loss on one house, trust me, when I look back on that, it was pure emotion that screwed that thing up. It was the only project, for whatever reason, I didn't take my own advice. And money was not responding well to that emotion. Just trust me on that house. And maybe I should do a whole presentation on that screw up. And then you get what you tolerate. That's it. That's all I got for you guys. But for the most part, this looks like a nice, clean little house. And this, okay, maybe we're not going to be able to negotiate too much on. This is the exact same house. This is what was inside the house. So don't judge a book by its cover. When we roll up on a project, there's some big exterior red flags that we're looking for right away